Did you know that monsters comprise more than half of all video games in the world? And as a game developer, that is a statistic I made up to keep you 4 seconds into the video. A horror game with no monster is like a table without legs. Sure, a table doesn't have to have legs to be a good table. So with the theme of this game jam being knowledge, I thought, let's make a game where the player has no knowledge of the monster, before ultimately realizing there was no monster in the first place. Hence a horror game with no monster at all. So let's open a new Godot project and add a first-person controller to move and look around just like you would in a normal game. We're gonna make a first-person game because I've noticed horror works really well when you tend to look back a little too much. Basically, if looking back is an option for the player, it makes it a little more unnerving because there could be anything behind you at any time. Then, after adding a thick fog and some darkness, we now have the core mechanics, or rather the base mechanics. All we're doing right now is just moving and looking around, ready to go. You see, I started making this game 5 days into the deadline, which meant I had 2 days left. Therefore, sleep was out of the question. So I drew and modeled the entire map all night. And when it was finally morning, it was time to move on to the horror aspect of the game. We're gonna focus on zero monsters. We're going to be using fear factors instead. Now, what is a fear factor? Basically, a fear factor is anything that the player sees, touches, that gives them a sense of fear. So what we have to do is maximize the fear factor and create an illusion of a monster existing within the game, because there isn't one. Anyways, the fear factor we'll be starting with first is time. Being late to class and not being able to meet a deadline are among the most common causes of fear and anxiety for the average person, so we're going to use that factor in our game. Firstly, I modeled an old janky stopwatch in Blender and wrote some code which rotated the needle depending on how much time had passed. I made it so that the needle of the clock completed 1 round every minute. Like, goes around the whole clock every 1 minute. You hear a tick. That way you'll know that 1 minute has passed. The plan is to make it 5 minutes. The 5 minutes is the time limit, the horror limit. Kind of like the power going out in FNAF. But before we do that, we have another fear factor to take care of: visibility. A good example of that is how Ultra Kill does it in the secret maze level, where you can barely see anything, making you more uncertain and scared that something wicked will end your life and make you lose the game. Since we've already added that with the fog and all, we can add to it by slowing down the player's speed, which gives a sticky feeling of suffocation and the inability to do much in this unfamiliar space. And the final is sound. I made a very simple horror song because I probably had like less than 12 hours left or something. I borrowed some footstep sounds and finally added a ticking sound to the clock whenever 1 minute passes, which acts like a tiny jump scare, a reminder that you're running out of time. So hurry up. And now, the real final fear factor, because I am inconsistent as narrative. This horror game needs a story. I came up with a perfectly crafted, handwritten story in less than 3 seconds. You're in a facility and you have the task of finding 3 scientific objects before time runs out. Otherwise, something bad will happen. So I made a few game objects, made a paper containing information about the game, and made a final animation revealing the story and end credits. All in freaking Canva. And finally, I painstakingly added all of the game's colliders and walls so the player doesn't fall out of the map. And a little spoiler, Easter egg kind of thing for the explorative ones who haven't reached the end of the game yet. So if you want to play this game and critique the position of every collision shape I wackily placed with my bare hands, the link is down there. Stay cool. More videos later soon. See you later, guys.